The Benjamin Dixon Show is only possible with listener support. Go to www.thebenjamindixonshow.com to register for our blog and join the Progressive Army.
Today is Thursday, September 3rd, 2020. Thanks so much for joining me. I want to begin with unfortunate news out of Rochester, New York, as well as Washington, D.C. Last night, a black man was killed by police officers, shot in the back by officers in Washington, D.C. His name was Deon K. And we just got body cam footage and other footage from the killing, the brutal killing, suffocation of Daniel Prude. Daniel Prude, who died on March 30th. He died 7 days after police officers put a hood over his head. He was having a psychological break, a mental health crisis. And instead of utilizing any other resources, some mental health counselors, someone who could have helped that situation, police officers put a hood over his head and pressed his face to the ground for 2 minutes until he went unconscious. And then 7 days after that, he died. I'll give you the particulars of those stories. I'm going to play a portion of one of the videos. It's not the full video. The video was almost 8 minutes, eerily reminiscent of the George Floyd video in terms of length and in terms of substance. I'm not going to play the full video or the audio, but I am going to play about a minute of it so that you can hear it. And the reason I want you to hear it is because I want you to hear what these police officers ignored. I want you to hear that they ignored his cries. They ignored his pleas. And the fact that this man posed no actual threat to them because they were out there to check on it was a wellness check. His brother, who I know regrets it, called the police to come help with a mental health crisis that was occurring, and the police killed him. I'll play some audio from the brother. I'm taking my time before I go into it because this has been a hell of a day. The stories that we have to cover today are grim. And it is a grim reality about what we're facing in this country, the uphill battle we're facing in this country. And then not only the uphill battle that we're facing in terms of justice or injustice or our fight for justice, it's an uphill battle in terms of dealing with the malevolently disingenuous people who will watch this video and find a way to justify this man's murder. They're out there. No questions. They are out there, and they're going to show up soon. They're going to find a way. Something in this man's past, they're going to find a way to just say, oh, well, he stole candy in third grade. Or he got arrested for marijuana in 2018. They're going to find something and use that as a justification for his murder. And I don't know if I'm emotionally ready to deal with them today, but I know I'm emotionally ready to beat their asses, rhetorically speaking, of course. But this is where we are in this country. And we've been here for some time. So, content warning. I want you to, if you're not interested in seeing this, if this is too much for you, fast forward past this and come back after about 60, let's say 90 seconds. Here's the first footage of Daniel Prude being suffocated by police officers in Rochester, New York.
Now give me the mace. Give me the mace. Give me the mace. On my mama blood, they flipping over in her grave. I mean that. Flip. Get the fuck up. Give me that gun.
Are you on 5?
Give me that gun. Give me that gun, not me. All right. Take this shit off my face. Gun, not me.
You're gonna stay down.
All right. Take this shit off my face.
No, I got him. I'm already in it.
Drag me, kill me. And Jesus came out of me. My mama flipping over like grave, man. No God. I need it. Get that shit out my face, man. I got stupid.
Stop. Calm down. Stop. Calm down. Calm down, okay?
Get the feet off me. Get the fool. Get the fuck out.
And again, my apologies for you having to hear that and to watch that, but it's necessary because they ignored his cries for help. Held him with a bag over his head for 2 minutes until he passed out. And then he died days later. He was experiencing a mental health crisis. They weren't there because he committed any act of violence. They were not there because he committed any crime. His crime was having mental health issues. I want to play a clip of his brother. And I know this brother has to feel a level of guilt because he's the one who called the police. But he called the police hoping that they would help. And ultimately, they killed his brother. Take a listen in.
I placed a phone call for my brother to get help, not for my brother to get lynched. Now, when I say got lynched, that was a full-fledged, ongoing murder, cold-blooded, none other than cold-blooded murder. How did you sit here and not even directly say the man is defenseless, butt naked on the ground? He's cuffed up already. I mean, come on. How many more brothers got to die for society to understand that this needs to stop? And I can't even share with y'all the pain that I'm feeling and my family is going through as well. Who can we hold accountable for this? Why was it a cover-up? Why did my brother get harmed when he complied with everything that them people wanted him to do? Why did he get treated like an African-American male from 1960? That's the case, you should have just sucked a damn dog on him. To treat somebody unhumane like that. You killed a defenseless black man, a father's son, a brother's brother, a nephew's uncle. I mean, come on.
Come on, indeed. So already, people are trying to make justifications for it. They're already floating things. Oh, he was high on PCP. Is that the crime? I mean, is that the crime that warrants a death sentence? Right? That he had COVID-19 and he was spitting. Is that a crime worthy of a death sentence? What bothers me in this country is that there's no level to which people who don't want to recognize the true nature of this police state, there's no level to which they won't stoop. There's literally nothing, because they have a vested interest in maintaining this hermetically sealed protective bubble around the police state, because the police state serves a very particular function. Now, the useful idiots who come out on social media, they are doing it because, well, they're just useful idiots. The police state doesn't serve them. It may serve their ideology, but it no more serves them than their ideology serves them. Do you understand what I'm saying? Like, what they're doing is that the useful morons on social media who are doing the bidding of the police state and the ruling elite by creating narratives to undermine our pursuit for justice. What they're doing is trying to protect their ideology when the police state will be brought down on them the moment they realize that their ideology doesn't really serve them. But so long as they keep this thing in their head where, you know, these white conservatives, let's just call them who they are. Generally speaking, they are all white conservatives and the collaborators of color that help them. So long as they fall neatly in line with what the rulers of this country and of this world want, then the police state will never bother them. And so they're perfectly fine saying and doing whatever they have to, making up lies, making up propaganda, spreading it, justifying clear murder. Justifying it. It doesn't matter what the case is. We have literally seen police officers shoot people in the back as they ran away, walked away, hell, on their knees. Daniel Shaver was on his knees begging for his life, and they justified his murder too. And he was a white guy. So what the hell do you think they're doing with black people? That's the reality of this system. The reality of this system is that you have people at every single level who believe that this system is doing something good for them, when in reality it is exploiting their useful idiot asses as much as it is exploiting us. They are the ones who are, some of these people are unemployed right now because of the idiocy of this government. Some of these people are facing evictions right now because of the idiocy of their government, but they are so committed to finding ways of stopping our pursuit for justice that they will ignore the reality that this system has abused them. This system has exploited them. It doesn't matter. They are committed to this system and their ideology, and most of all, their hate-filled bigotry. They are so committed to it that they will protect a police state that would just as soon crush the life out of them as it did George Floyd. But they are useful idiots. And then, of course, you have the politicians. I don't even care. I'm going to be honest with you. I don't care whether this guy, well, actually, we know this happened in Rochester, New York. So we know it's a democratically ran state. I was getting ready to say I don't care what the political structure is of that state, and I don't. I don't care if it's Republican or Democrat. What people don't understand is that the nature of this system benefits both parties, benefits the ruling elite, which is protected by both parties. There's no question about that. People are, oh, it's a Democratic. Do you think that these type of murders don't happen in Republican? You know, hell, you got vigilante Republicans running around here thinking they are the law. The devaluation of black lives in this country specifically, but also the lives of anyone who would stand up against this system, to be sure. That devaluation happens no matter the political persuasion, because it is a necessary evil that they are more than happy to continue so long as we continue to protect as the police state, because the police state protects them. Goddamn America. That's all I can say. Jeremiah Wright was right. Goddamn America. Because this country will kill you in cold blood and then justify your murder and then make you apologize for protesting against those murders. Body cam footage of Deon K being shot. He is the young man who was just killed last night or yesterday afternoon in Washington, D.C. by D.C. police. Body cam footage has been released. I can play the audio for you listening in the audience and describe it for you. I will be playing the video for the video audience. And I want you to look at a couple of things. One, they're saying that he had a gun. And from the still images, it looks like he possibly had something in his hands. What's difficult about this for me is in the extended version of the video that I'm going to play for the audience, the officer goes to look for the gun. They say the first thing he says is he tossed the gun. Now, I didn't really see the man toss the gun, but it's possible that out of frame that he tossed the gun. But the place they found the gun was so damn far away from where he was shot, this boy would have had a career in the NFL. They literally had to walk across an entire playground. If he was able to throw that gun that far while running and getting shot, it's preposterous. And what's worse is that you listen and you watch this police officer as he's scrambling. He's like, damn, I got to find a gun. I got to find the gun. I got to find a gun. And then all of a sudden, oh, there it is. On the opposite side of the playground which was, I'm bad at estimation, so I can't even tell you about how far it was. You have to ascertain that for yourself. But it was so far away from this man's body that I very seriously doubt that he was able to throw that gun as far as they said it went while getting shot. Take a listen to the audio and watch the video.
Hey, shots fired, shots fired. Where is it? Where is it? I don't know, I'm looking for the gun, he's up there. I did. Where, yeah, where's the, hey. Me canvas. Where? Where? Down this way? He threw it. Yeah.
You good?
Yeah, I'm good, I'm good.
Is anybody else standing?
One this way. But I gotta find it. Where is it? Hey, I got it. He's got a do-rag on his head. Black male, do-rag on his head, 5'4", 100 pounds, wearing a black shirt. I got it right here.
Do we think he has a gun?
I don't know. This is the one that he was holding.
You good?
I'm good. I'm involved.
This man looks for the weapon in some, like, at the angle that he's looking for it behind the building. You come through the middle of those buildings and you have to go to the left, and he's all the way so far to the left that it is completely irrational for him to even be searching over in that area. But there he is searching at an angle that is impossible, completely impossible. Now, I don't want to underestimate the stupidity of police officers. So maybe he thought that's a thing. But then he runs down. He runs down so far away and he passes up the spot that he comes back and says, "Oh, I found it." Now, listen, you know me, I don't play these games. I would just as soon, accept footage as what they say it was, right? I don't play the conspiracy theory games, but this is so obscene. This is so absurd. And all they released, they didn't release this part. All they released were still images showing that the gun was thrown. Frame by frame, still images showing that the gun was thrown. But in the video, now I'm going to take some time after this episode and I'm going to slow it down frame by frame and try to recreate it from what they did. But at the end of the day, the gun itself is a red herring because, one, he was running away. And there's training and protocols for police officers to not put themselves needlessly in the line of fire. This officer ran in front of him. And at the moment he ran in front of him, he allegedly threw the gun. So he was surrendering. He was throwing the gun away. So either way, even if he magically was able to throw a 3-pound, 4-pound gun over 50 yards away on the opposite side of a playground, it still shows you that he was surrendering and this police officer did not know what the hell he was doing. He was actually, I'm not even going to give this man an excuse. He was itching to pull that trigger. And then he went and magically found a gun on the opposite side of the playground. I'm not going to deal with this story too much more. Tell you why, because it's one of these stories that'll make me snap in addition to everything else that's going on around us. I'll let you guys sort that out in the comment section.
The Benjamin Dixon Show is only possible with listener support. Go to www.thebenjamindixonshow.com to register for our blog and join the Progressive Army.
And do you want to know why I don't trust the goddamn police? Do you want to know why? This story coming out of Los Angeles County, where a whistleblower says that a California deputy killed a teen in order to join the department's gang. This is why I don't trust these bastards. A whistleblower claims the deputy who shot and killed 18-year-old Andres Guardado was a prospective member of a violent clique within the Compton's Sheriff's Station. Deputy Art Gonzalez said more than a dozen deputies have matching tattoos that identify them as quote-unquote executioners. Sheriff Alex Villanueva is investigating the claims, but said some of the allegations may be exaggerated. Gonzalez is one of 4 whistleblowers who have come forward with similar stories of the station. I want to read this quote to you. It's very disturbing, to say the least, that gangs are commonly known to exist within the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department. These reports go to the heart of our concerns that the Sheriff's Department promotes and harbors a culture of violence against the public. Make no mistake, we have every intention of conducting a thorough investigation into the potential involvement of any Sheriff Department's gang in the shooting of Andres Guardado. More than a dozen deputies have matching tattoos. I now call them a gang because that's what gangs do. They beat up on other people, Gonzalez said. This is why I don't trust cops. I don't trust them as far as I can see them. I don't trust them as far as I can throw a gun 50 yards across a playground at an odd angle. The angle is damn near impossible in that Deon case. The angle is damn near impossible in that case, but I digress. Whistleblowers from within these departments are starting to tell exactly the corrupt and the brutal nature of. Can we just talk about the sadistic nature of police in general? Not all cops may be bad. I hear somebody in the audience saying it, so I'll say it for you. But all cops are bastards. The reason I don't trust them is because I know humanity. And I know people when they get power, especially people who are probably deep down sociopaths anyway, rejects from their community, or they carry a chip on their shoulder, a bigoted chip on their shoulder because they believe they understand what's wrong with these quote unquote animals. And that's the disposition that they go into our communities with. So I'm not surprised at this report about a gang inside of the police department there, or the sheriff's department there in the Los Angeles County. I am appalled, but I'm not surprised because it fits everything. It actually makes more sense. It makes more sense that there would be gang-like mentalities and organizations within the policing agencies across this country than the assumption that we give them that they are noble.
Go to www.patreon.com/The BPD Show and get twice the content and unfiltered interviews without any of the commercial interruptions.
And here we go. At this point in every single episode, I'd like to take a minute to thank the people who make the show possible, our patrons. Very special welcome to Maggie May, Simalai Samedi, Megan, Angela Harris, Devin Cozier, Jessica Williams, Derek, R. Mars, Variant. Thank you all so much for becoming patrons. I almost messed that up. Very special welcome to Jamie, Hannah Prentice, Gloria Dennis Leguanas, and Mentario Clement. Thank you all for becoming patrons. You too can become a part of this prestigious and prodigious patron family by going to patreon.com/The BPD Show, where you get twice the content, uncut, unfiltered interviews, none of our commercial interruptions, and you give me the ability to speak truth to power and power into the powerless, whether the powerful like it or not.
Welcome back to the Benjamin Dixon Show. Visit us online at thebenjamindixonshow.com.
All right, let's talk about the eviction crisis. The CDC is reportedly getting ready to initiate a moratorium on all evictions. I played a clip earlier today. I shared a clip from CNN that showed the eviction process had already begun for thousands of people, hundreds of thousands of people across the country. Some 40 million Americans are facing evictions. And like I've been saying for some time, putting people out of their homes and them having to move into homeless shelters during the pandemic is literally going to spread COVID-19. And that's the foundation, the justification that the CDC is giving, saying that this is going to cause a spread of COVID-19, which we've been saying. Here's the dilemma. And the difficult thing about this is that it's not an actual moratorium. It is the people are going to have to pay 5 months of rent. September, October, November, December. Well, 4 months of rent on January 1st. So as soon as the moratorium is over, they didn't cancel the rent. They just held up the rent, and everyone is going to have to pay the rent. Let me ask you something. If they can't pay 1 month of rent in September and they can't get jobs, how the hell does America expect them to pay their rent in January? So literally all we're doing is just kicking this down the football field, delaying the inevitable crisis. And it's giving the government something to say that, oh, well, we did this and we gave you an opportunity. When in reality, the government has given billionaires, corporations, businesses, and Wall Street something to the tune of trillions of dollars in new money, as well as forgivable loans, which means free money. They call them forgivable loans, but the most important part is it's forgivable. And so now you have all these businesses and corporations and wealthy people who are doing just fine because the government sustained them. But the government has not done that in return for the people. And so, excuse the camera shake. And so while Wall Street is doing fine, our street is going to be crushed. We are just delaying the crushing. We're just delaying the inevitable. And we're giving the people in power the opportunity to say that they did something, but all they did was delayed our inevitable demise. Now, is it better than nothing? Sure. I'm sure everybody is grateful for an opportunity, but here it comes again. It's coming again in January, and still the government is not doing what needs to be done. And specifically what needs to be done is the government needs to open up the coffers for the people the way it's opened up the coffers for Wall Street and pour money into the people so that the people can pay their damn rent, can consume. They can consume and help stimulate the economy. They could put food on their table so that people don't have to wait in bread lines in the middle of a pandemic. But instead of doing that, they're just delaying the inevitable disaster that is looming and that is coming in January. The sum total of all the stories today is enough to make me want to snap. But I'm just going to keep reporting the news and using my words because words have become my tools in lieu of violence. Rhetorical violence, obviously. But more and more, this country is leaving me speechless. I don't have the words to explain the hypocrisy, the bigotry, the disingenuousness, the gaslighting, the excuses for all of this police brutality and murder, the justification, the reveling in cruelty, because the cruelty is the point. There's not many more words that can be said about this. At a certain point, words become empty and meaningless. And they have to be accompanied with action. But I tell you one thing, if I don't ever get to the point where I move into action myself, these 40 million Americans who are going to face eviction, and that's in January, And that's only if the CDC is successful in passing this moratorium, which they should be able to because it is a good justification. But in January, in the winter, you're going to have 40 million Americans evicted because the government spent all of its time taking care of Wall Street and none of its time taking care of the people. That's when you're going to see action. That's when words are going to be meaningless without action. Patrons, stay tuned. Everybody else, I'll see you tomorrow.
The Benjamin Dixon Show is only possible with listener support. Go to www.patreon.com/The BPD Show and support The Benjamin Dixon Show. If you like this episode, be sure to share, like, and subscribe.
All right, patrons, let's keep going. Let's keep this ball moving. I want to talk about Nancy Pelosi and the beauty salon. What would we call it? Salon Gate is what we'll call it. And I want to actually deal with this just very briefly because I don't really care that she was hypocritical. I'm not a fan of Nancy Pelosi enough to remotely try to defend her. For those of you who don't know what I'm talking about, Nancy Pelosi got caught on video at a beauty salon getting her hair done, despite telling everyone to stay away from these places. And then also despite, I believe, the fact that the salon was actually closed down. Interestingly enough, she said that she was invited by them to come. I have some audio of her reply. So why don't I just play it? Let's listen to her response and then we'll discuss.
I take responsibility for trusting the word of a neighborhood salon that I've been to over the years many times, and that when they said, well, we're able to accommodate people one person at a time, and that we can set up that time, I trusted that. As it turns out, it was a setup, so I take responsibility for falling for a setup, and that's all I'm going to say on that.
She takes responsibility for falling for a setup. Okay. I mean, cool. I don't really care. Again, like I said, I don't really care about this story with one exception. I can't fathom seeing myself participating as much as I dislike Nancy Pelosi. I cannot imagine myself participating in being upset about her going to get her hair done at a damn salon, which is being pushed by the right in this country. Donald Trump just tweeted about it. What did he say? What did this mother... I just don't see myself getting upset about it when 180,000 Americans are dead. I just don't see myself falling for the usual Republican games. The usual Republican games is for us to be upset about every little thing that a progressive or a Democrat or a liberal does and ignoring the atrocities that occur at their hands. This is what Donald Trump said. Nancy Pelosi says she got, quote, set up by a beauty parlor owner. Maybe the beauty parlor owner should be running for the House of Representatives instead of crazy Nancy. And then he said crazy Nancy says he repeated the same, basically the same thing. And he said, does anyone want Speaker of the House who could be so easily set up? Folks, are we supposed to be mad? And I'm saying this from let's talk about this two different places. The progressive side, I've seen a couple of progressives tweet this this is horrible. And I'm like, no, shut the hell up. I don't give a shit. Right? I refuse to be upset about this when we are not properly upset about 180,000 people dying. And the reason I refuse is not about a whataboutism. It's about the fact that is the exact game that is played on us to control and manipulate us. Number two, how the hell do Republicans expect to be able to get away with feigning outrage over her going to the beauty salon? It's actually worse than Donald Trump trying to make people upset at New York Governor Andrew Cuomo for 11,000 people dying in New York. Donald Trump is trying relentlessly to get people to be upset at him about the 11,000 people dying in New York from COVID-19, but not the 180,000 people who have died across the United States under his watch. And if we give life to these types of things, if we run around and support it and retweet it, then we are literally doing the bidding. We're engaging in the propaganda that they use to destroy not only Democrats but the progressives as well. So I don't know if you even knew about that story, but it's not even important. The only thing important about that story is the fact that this is the level of games that will be played on us. That we're supposed to be mad about Nancy Pelosi, who I don't like, going to get her hair done, but not mad about 180,000 people dying underneath Donald Trump's watch.
Well, they'll go out and they'll vote, and they're going to have to go and check their vote by going to the poll and voting that way, because if it tabulates, then they won't be able to do that. So let them send it in and let them go vote. And if their system's as good as they say it is, then obviously they won't be able to vote. If it isn't tabulated, they'll be able to vote. So that's the way it is. But send in your ballots, send them in strong, whether it's solicited or unsolicited. The absentees are fine. We have to work to get them. It means something. And you send them in, but you go to vote. And if they haven't counted it, you can vote. So that's the way I view it.
I'm not sure how I should approach this, the analysis of this, because here's the thing: like, we can talk about the absolute absurdity and stupidity of Donald Trump, but we can also talk about the hypocrisy of him worrying about voter fraud, but then literally telling his people to commit voter fraud. Yeah, this is the thing. Donald Trump just seeded into the national conversation the exact thing that he needs to try to claim that the entire system is invalidated. The entire election is invalidated. Because if enough people do what the president of the United States just said, I believe it will cause a collapse in our electoral system. That or a whole bunch of people are going to end up going to jail. So yes, it is hypocrisy. Yes, it is stupidity, but I think it's strategic. I really believe that at the end of the day, if enough people do exactly what Donald Trump said, which I believe they will do, it will be disastrous for our political system, and will give him the opportunity for our electoral system, and will give Donald Trump the opportunity to say, oh, well, look, we have to, and look at all these people who committed voter fraud. And when that happens, no one is going to care. I'll care. Some of the media will care. You'll care. But the politicals, the mainstream, nobody's going to go back and say, yeah, but Donald Trump, this is what you told them to do. And even if they go back and say, yeah, Donald Trump, this is what you told the people to do, it still doesn't change the fact that it would have created so much chaos in our election that he can honestly try to say that it's invalidated. Now, can he get away with that? Well, he has a Supreme Court on his side. He has the Attorney General on his side, who in this interview with Wolf Blitzer tried to pretend as though he doesn't understand the law. Attorney General who doesn't understand the law.
And then let them go vote. And if the system is as good as they say it is, then obviously they won't be able to vote. It sounds like he's encouraging people to break the law and try to vote twice.
Well, I don't know exactly what he was saying, but it seems to me what he's saying is he's trying to make the point that the ability to monitor this system is not good. And if it was so good, if you tried to vote a second time, you would be caught if you voted in person.
That would be illegal if they did that. If somebody mailed in a ballot and then actually showed up to vote in person, that would be illegal.
I don't know what the law in the particular state says.
You can't vote twice.
Well, I don't know what the law in the particular state says and when that vote becomes final.
Is there any state that says you can vote twice?
Well, there's some, maybe that you can change your vote up to a particular time. I don't know what the law is, so I'm not going to offer.
He was saying test the system.
If you know what he's saying, why are you asking me what he's saying?
He doesn't believe in the mail-in voting. You're the Attorney General of the United States.
Why does you? Yeah.
Well, yeah, I guess I am. I guess I am the attorney general. Yeah, well, so the fact that he has an attorney general who absolutely represents him as an individual versus the country. You know, one of the number one thing people tell you when you go into business with somebody, or you're going into a partnership with somebody, is they say, make sure that you have an attorney that represents the company and not that individual. We have an attorney general that represents the president of the United States and not the United States of America and our justice system, injustice system. But here he is, basically giving cover to the president of the United States by pretending as though he doesn't know the law when it is his responsibility to know the law. And the reason I bring this up is not, again, the hypocrisy is not enough. They don't care about hypocrisy. They don't care about disingenuousness. That is their act. Those are their tools. Those are their tools to accomplish everything that they want to accomplish. So when William Barr says that I don't know the law, that he's lying, he does know the law. He knows it's very simple. This is illegal. But he's never going to concede to that, because how can he concede to that without not literally indicting, but rhetorically indicting the president of the United States? Because he'll never literally indict the president of the United States. But I digress. How can he tell the truth in this setting? And so he pretends as though he's dumb. And then he say, oh, well, yeah, I guess I am the attorney general. Yeah. What do you mean? Yeah, well, I guess. What do you mean? What I mean is that I have no doubt in my mind that Donald Trump suggested that people commit voter fraud in order to undermine the election, the integrity of the election, just enough for him to be able to declare that the results are invalid if he doesn't like the results. If he wins, he would never say the results are invalid. But if he loses, he has caused and seeded enough chaos in the system for him to say, oh, well, these results are invalid. And then who are we going to lean on? What part of the American institution or American institutions will we lean on to rectify this? Will it be the Supreme Court? Well, no, that's when John Roberts is going to show you that he was a conservative all along. Is it going to be our Department of Justice? No, because Attorney General William Barr is like, oh, well, am I actually the Attorney General? I mean, like, really? Who is going to rectify this? It creates a constitutional crisis and a moment that Donald Trump has shown he's more than willing to seize upon to enshrine his power. So I don't think that Donald Trump said those things just because he's a moron. I don't think he said those things just because he wanted to engage in disingenuousness and hypocrisy. Those things are true, but I think he said these things explicitly so that if enough of his supporters actually do it, then it will undermine the integrity of the election, and he will be able to justify declaring that the results are invalid, and he has the Supreme Court and the Department of Justice to back him up, not to mention the Senate and a House of Representatives that doesn't seem to be willing to use their power to hold him accountable. All right. I want to play a clip of a black man who is the proverbial Clayton Bigsby, Uncle Ruckus as the black white supremacist, none other than Sheriff David Clark, as he explains why he feels like people need to go with a plan. If they're going to shoot somebody, make sure that they go with a plan. They're going to shoot a Black Lives Matter protester. Make sure you're prepared with a plan. Because he's done condoning this violence. He's done He said he's done condemning this violence. Take a listen in.
You've talked about it. You've called radio stations, been interviewed about it. The question is, when is government going to do something? Inaction is not a plan. You know what happens with inaction? People take the law into their own hands. Government is leaving them no choice. No choice. I don't advocate for some of the stuff that's starting to happen, but I'm certainly done. I am through with condemning it. I'm done with that. I'm just telling people, hey, you're on your own. Think about it, have a plan, act reasonably. You have to act reasonably. And you're going to have to articulate what you did afterwards. But you can't have government officials and law enforcement executives telling people, do not take the law into your own hands. You're forcing them to. If a guy is breaking in to the business, or a mob breaking into a business and the guy's inside, the owner, was he supposed to stand by and just let it happen?
Okay, so this is the absurdity, right? It's absurd, but it also sounds reasonable in the framing that he's giving it. But the framing that he's giving it does not reflect the reality of what's been happening on the ground. What's been happening on the ground are vigilantes who have ideations of killing people, come from out of town, not to protect their personal property, but underneath the auspices of protecting someone else's property, and using that as an occasion to have confrontations with protesters that they politically disagree with. And then when that confrontation escalates, then they kill somebody. That's the real scenario. What David Clark is saying is not the real scenario in any of these cases of the protest. Because in the framework that this is really, really slick propaganda. He's trying to say, I'm tired of condemning it. I'm not going to approve of it, but I'm not going to condemn it. Basically saying, I'm not going to judge you. That's incitement, number one. He's pushing people to do it. Number two, he's creating a scenario in their mind that, yeah, we are justified because the law isn't doing what they're supposed to do. How the hell is the law not doing what they're supposed to do when every single night we see the troops out like Gestapo, like the damn stormtroopers? So it's a second lie that's in there. It sounds reasonable when you first pass it, but once you break it apart, it's like, wait a minute, this is the height of dangerous, violence inciting propaganda because number one, this is not the scenario that ever happens. Number two, it's completely false that the police are not there in full force. And then he says, well, then you got to have a plan. Make sure that you have a plan. So he's giving them a strategy to do this. I don't know what's going to become of this country. And a very sad, what I'm getting ready to say is very sad. But the best thing, no, let me rephrase that. There's a confrontation that's coming. And I think the only way to stop that confrontation is for one side to lay down and acquiesce. And as it stands right now, it doesn't look like that's going to be them. And what they have counted on for years is for it to be us, the liberals, the progressives primarily. Liberals are collaborators in a lot of cases. But those of us who are fighting for liberation and justice, however you define it, it's been us that have capitulated because we want to keep the peace. It's definitely been Democrats and liberals who capitulate, but it's never been in this country the right, the conservative movement in this country that has capitulated, only during and after the Civil War. We had literally crushed them. So it's a sad state of affairs to see that we're on a collision course. Joe Biden might be the only person who's out there saying, let's all settle down. But with his let's all settle down, that means that we capitulate, that we give in, and that we fold. We stop fighting for justice in a significant fashion, and we kind of just accept America the way it is. So it's extremely depressing to think that perhaps the only way we have peace in the future is if one side capitulates, and that looks like it. Historically, it's always been us, with the exception of the Civil War, where we had to kill them and crush them. And if you're a person like me who would rather be in the backyard barbecuing while my kids jump on the trampoline, it's a very depressing state of affairs to think that the only way that we may be able to get justice and liberation in this country is through forms that are not peaceful. because everyone on their side is gearing up to go to war with us. And all we're trying to say is, bitch, stop killing us. Stop the police state. Could you stop killing us? And to them, that says, oh, you declare war. Really think about that. You have just declared war on us because you want the police to stop killing you. You see the unbelievably asymmetrical fuckery that goes on in this country? Asinine. I want to read for you an article from John Pavlovitz, and it's something that he wrote some years ago, but I'm just finding it this morning, and I found it pretty refreshing. It is entitled, White Evangelicals, This Is Why People Are Through With You. And here's his open letter. He said, Dear white evangelicals, I need to tell you something. People have had it with you. They're done. They want nothing to do with you any longer, and here's why. They see your hypocrisy, your inconsistency, your incredibly selective mercy, and your thinly veiled supremacy. For 8 years, they watched you relentlessly demonize a black president, a man faithfully married for 26 years, a doting father and husband without a hint of moral scandal or the slightest whiff of infidelity. They watched you deny his personal faith, convictions, argue his birthplace, and assail his character, all without cause or evidence. They saw you brandish scriptures to malign him and to use the laziest of racial stereotypes in criticizing him. And through it all, white evangelicals, you never once suggested that God placed him where he was. You never publicly offered prayers for him and his family. You never welcomed him to your Christian universities. You never gave him the benefit of the doubt in any instance. You never spoke of offering him forgiveness or mercy. Your evangelists never publicly thanked God for his leadership. Your pastors never took to the pulpit to offer solidarity with them. You never made any effort to affirm his humanity or show the love of Jesus to him in any quantifiable measure. You violently opposed him at every single turn without offering a single ounce of the grace you claim as the heart of your faith tradition. You jettisoned Jesus as you dispensed damnation on him. And yet you give carte blanche to a white Republican man so riddled with depravity, so littered with extramarital affairs, so unapologetically vile, with such a vast resume of moral filth that the mind boggles. And the change in you is unmistakable. It has been an astonishing conversion to behold, a being born again. With him, you subtly find religion. With him, you're now willing to offer full absolution. With him, all is forgiven without repentance or admission. With him, you're suddenly able to see some invisible, deeply buried heart. With him, sin has become unimportant, compassion no longer a requirement. With him, you only see providence. And white evangelicals, all those people who have had it with you, they see it clearly. They recognize the toxic source of your inconsistency. They see that pigmentation and party are your sole deities. They see that you aren't interested in perpetuating the love of God or emulating the heart of Jesus. They see that you aren't burdened to love the least or to be agents of compassion, or to care for your Muslim, gay, African, female, or poor neighbors as yourself. They see that all you're really interested in doing is making a God in your own ivory image and demanding that the world bow down to it. They recognize this all about white, Republican Jesus, not dark-skinned Jesus of Nazareth. And I know you don't realize it, but you're digging your own grave in these days, the grave of your very faith tradition. Your willingness to align yourself with cruelty is a costly marriage. Yes, you've gained a Supreme Court seat, a few months with the presidency as a mouthpiece, and the cheap high of temporary power, but you've lost a whole lot more. You've lost an audience with millions of wise, decent, good-hearted, faithful people with eyes to see this ugliness. You've lost any moral high ground or spiritual authority with a generation. You've lost any semblance of Christ-likeness. You've lost the plot. And most of all, you've lost your soul. I know it's likely you'll dismiss these words. The fact that you've even made your bed with such malevolence shows how far gone you are and how insulated you are from the reality in front of you. But I had to try at least to reach you. It's what Jesus would do. Maybe you need to read what he said again if he still matters to you. That is an open letter, White Evangelicals, This Is Why People Are Through With You, by John Pavlovich. You can read it at johnpavlovich.com. That's John, Pavlovitz.com. Extremely powerful words. And it's 2 years old, but I felt like not enough people have heard it. And so I'm re-upping it. And I hope that you felt that, because that's the truth. The truth of the matter is it is exposing. If I deferred with him in any place, I would say that this is who they've always been. Maybe we're just realizing it because of Donald Trump. Maybe, no. Maybe you're just realizing it because of how they treated Barack Obama as opposed to Donald Trump. But this is who they have always been. People try to figure out how could it be that Christians would raise $300,000 for Kyle Rittenhouse, the man who shot and killed 2 protesters in Kenosha. They were like, what kind of Christians are these? These are the exact same Christians who would go to church, lynch us on Saturday night and go to church on Sunday morning, or go to church on Sunday morning and lynch us on Sunday afternoon. It's the same Christians that we had to oppose to get our civil rights. And they're the same Christians who are lined up against us because we're fighting against the police state, and they're ready to damn near go to civil war with us. It's the same Christians that fall prey willingly and happily to the QAnon idiocy. It's the type of Christians who view Christianity through the lens of power versus through the lens of the oppressed. They look at it as a tool to maintain their power versus as a tool to liberate people from the powerful. It's the type of Christians who will never admit it, but they are on the side of Pharaoh and not on the side of Moses. You can't possibly read the Bible and be a person who's concerned about liberating people and not identify with Moses in the story of the children of Israel coming out of Egypt. But how can white evangelicals look at that story and believe that they are figuratively the children of Israel or the Moses in the narrative? How can they look at themselves and feel like they are the protagonists in the narrative when in fact they sit in the position and in the seat of Pharaoh all the time? In every way imaginable, politically, economically, socially, they are literally, or rather figuratively, sitting in the seat of Pharaoh. And so, of course, they have to reinterpret the entire Bible to bring some type of justification to them claiming to be Christians. But at the end of the day, they use the Bible as a tool, like most of European history, to be sure, has been laced with people utilizing the Bible as a tool to amass power. So we could go far beyond modern history, go far beyond Jim Crow era. We can go far beyond slavery. We can go back to all the wars, the Crusades, and look that there's a consistent thread. Whenever the Bible has been given into the hands of powerful people, they refuse to interpret it in a way that would liberate the marginalized, the oppressed, because they are the oppressor. So that's the only place I would disagree with this, is that this is not new. It's just that perhaps John, who I support his work, but perhaps he's just coming to terms with it. I came to terms with this many, many years ago when I realized that there had to be a fundamentally different way that I view God versus the people who I realize we're fighting against in order to get our liberation. White evangelicals, white conservative evangelicals, to be more precise. And even more precise, white conservative evangelicals who refuse to interpret the Bible through the lens of the oppressed and refuse to use the Bible as a tool to liberate people, but instead use it as a bludgeoning tool to maintain their power. And they sit in the seat of Pharaoh, but they pretend as though they are Moses. Talk to you later.